Some men command respect with weapons, others with words. Minho Park does it with silence. But tonight, that silence is shattered. The train cuts through the night, heading into Chicago. First class is supposed to be quiet, comfortable, exclusive. But right now, it's anything but. Because in Minho's arms, 3-month-old Marco is screaming like his life depends on it. And maybe it does. Minho sits frozen, his expression unreadable. To anyone watching, he looks calm, controlled, almost detached. But look at his eyes, there's something desperate flickering there. Look at his jaw, clenched so tight it could crack. Look at the bead of sweat trailing down his temple despite the air conditioning. This is a man who's used to solving problems. In his world, problems are handled swiftly, efficiently, permanently. But you can't intimidate a baby into silence. You can't negotiate with an infant. And right now, the most powerful man on this train has absolutely no power at all. Before we continue, if you're hooked by this story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Are you team help the stranger or team mind your business? Let me know below. Now, back to the story. Around him, passengers pretend not to notice. They bury themselves in phones, books, anything to avoid acknowledging the chaos. But their discomfort is visible, the sideways glances, the shifted positions, the barely concealed annoyance. Minho has built an empire on reading people, on knowing exactly what they're thinking before they think it. And right now, he knows exactly what every single person in this cabin is thinking. Make it stop. He's tried everything. The bottle sits rejected on the seat beside him. The pacifier was spat out minutes ago. Rocking only made Marco scream louder. Nothing works. Nothing helps. And for a man like Minho Park, failure isn't just embarrassing, it's impossible. His bodyguard leans in close, voice barely audible over Marco's cries. "Sir, perhaps we should. We stay on schedule." The words come out hard, clipped, final. Because if Minho admits he needs help, if he deviates from the plan, then he's admitting weakness. And weakness, in his world, gets you killed. But Marco doesn't care about power plays or pride. His cries only intensify, growing more frantic, more desperate. And that's when she hears it. Several rows ahead, Janiyah flinches at the sound. Her hands grip the armrest until her knuckles turn white. She's staring out the window at the lights of Chicago rushing closer, trying desperately to focus on anything except that cry. But she can't unhear it. She can't unfeel the way her body responds, the way every maternal instinct she has left screams at her to do something, to help, to fix this. Her chest tightens, her breath quickens. She knows that cry. She knows exactly what it means, and despite every rational thought telling her to stay in her seat, to mind her own business, to protect what's left of her shattered heart, something deeper, something primal, is pulling her to her feet. The question is, will she listen? Janiyah Williams knows that cry. Not just as a nurse, though she spent 5 years in pediatrics and can distinguish between hungry, tired, and colicky before most parents even pick up their baby. No, she knows it in a way that goes deeper than training, in a way that's carved into her bones. She knows it as a mother, or at least, she was one. 3 months ago. The Chicago skyline blurs past her window, familiar buildings she's seen 1,000 times. She's been away all weekend at a grief counseling conference, 2 days of sitting in circles with strangers who understand what most people can't. The ones who know that certain losses don't heal, they just become part of who you are. They talked about triggers, about moving forward, about finding meaning after tragedy. Nobody mentioned what to do when your body refuses to let go. Her daughter's name was Emma, 6 weeks old when she died in her crib. Sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. Those 4 letters that explain everything and nothing at the same time. No warning. No symptoms. No chance to say goodbye. The empty crib is still in Emma's room. Janiyah walks past it every morning, tells herself she'll take it down soon, knows she won't. Her phone is full of photos. Emma's first smile, her tiny fingers curled around Janiyah's thumb, her dark eyes wide with wonder at a world she barely got to see. And then there's the physical reminder, the cruelest one. Her body still thinks she's a mother, still prepares to feed a baby who's gone. Lactation doesn't understand death. It doesn't care about grief. It just keeps doing what it's programmed to do, a biological instinct that persists long after the reason for it has vanished. That's when Marco's cry cuts through everything. Janiyah's breath catches. Her hands tighten on the armrest. She knows that sound, not just any fussy baby, but hunger. Deep, desperate, primal hunger. The kind that means a baby needs to eat right now. Her chest responds before her mind can object. That familiar ache, the letdown reflex triggered by an infant's distress. Her body doing what it was designed to do, even though there's no Emma to feed anymore. She closes her eyes. Don't. Just don't. This isn't her problem. This isn't her baby. The grief counselor's words echo in her head. You need to establish boundaries. Protect yourself. You can't save every child just because you couldn't save your own. But that cry doesn't stop. If anything, it gets worse, more frantic, more urgent. Janiyah's training kicks in automatically. She can hear it in the pitch, in the rhythm. That baby is hungry, really hungry, and whoever's holding him doesn't know what to do about it. Walk away. Look out the window. Put in your headphones. This is not your responsibility. But her hands are already trembling. Her heart is already racing. Because somewhere in the back of her mind, a terrible thought is forming. What if she can help? What if her body's cruel joke of continued lactation could actually mean something? Could actually save a baby instead of just reminding her of the one she lost? No. That's insane. You don't even know these people. She risks a glance down the aisle. The man holding the crying baby looks expensive designer suit, commanding presence, the kind of person who's used to getting what he wants. But right now, what he wants is the one thing his money and power can't buy. A way to make his son stop crying. This is none of your business, Janiyah. Stay in your seat. But her body betrays her. The ache in her chest intensifies. Her maternal instinct, that primal drive that doesn't care about logic or self-preservation, is screaming at her to do something. Every rational thought tells her to stay put. You don't know him. You don't owe him anything. This could be dangerous. This could reopen wounds that haven't even begun to close. You need to protect yourself. But empathy has never been rational, and mother's instinct doesn't negotiate. Janiyah stands. Her legs feel shaky, uncertain, but they carry her anyway. She looks down the aisle at the man, at his rigid posture, his barely controlled frustration, his expensive suit that suddenly looks like armor he's desperate to shed. She doesn't know him. She doesn't know his story. She doesn't know what she's walking into. But she knows that baby needs help. And despite every defense mechanism screaming at her to turn around, despite every therapy session that told her to set boundaries, despite the grief that's still raw and bleeding, Janiyah walks toward the Mafia boss. Her heart pounds out a single word with every step. Help, help, help. The question hanging in the air isn't whether she'll offer. It's whether he'll let her. And what happens if he does? The walk down the aisle feels like miles. Every step brings Janiyah closer to a decision she can't take back. Closer to a stranger whose eyes track her approach with the wariness of a predator. Closer to a crying baby whose need is so obvious it makes her chest ache. She stops beside his seat. Up close, the man is even more intimidating, sharp jawline, cold eyes, an aura of controlled violence barely contained beneath expensive fabric. This is someone dangerous. Every instinct tells her that. But the baby in his arms is just a baby. Excuse me. Janiyah's voice comes out softer than she intended. I'm a nurse. Pediatrics. I might be able to help. Minho's eyes snap to hers. For a moment, he doesn't speak, just stares at her with an intensity that makes her want to step back. She can feel his bodyguard shifting behind him, suddenly alert. We don't need help. His voice is cold, clipped, final. But Marco's cries say otherwise. I can see that he's hungry, Janiyah presses gently. The way he's rooting, the pitch of his cry he needs to eat. If you have formula, I can show you how to. I said no. The words hit like a wall. Minho's expression hardens. Every vulnerable crack she glimpsed moments ago sealed shut. This is a man who doesn't accept help, who doesn't trust strangers, who has learned, probably through blood and pain, that kindness always comes with a price tag. In his world, no one offers help without wanting something in return. Janiyah should walk away. Any sane person would. But she's watching Marco's face turn redder, watching his tiny fists clench with desperate hunger, and her nurse's training won't let her abandon a baby in distress. Please, she says quietly. I just want to help. No strings, no. You think I can't take care of my own son? There's something dangerous in Minho's tone now. Something that warns her she's crossing a line. But Janiyah holds her ground. I think you're doing your best. But that baby is hungry, and whatever you've tried isn't working. Let me help. The train rattles over a junction, and in that moment of noise and movement, something shifts. Minho's jaw clenches. His hands tighten around Marco. She can see the war playing out behind his eyes, pride versus desperation, control versus helplessness. His son's cries are breaking him in a way nothing else could. Why? The word comes out rough, suspicious. Why do you care? Janiyah hesitates. How does she explain that she hears her own daughter in every baby's cry? That her body is screaming at her to help in ways she can't ignore? That sometimes grief needs purpose? Because I'm a nurse, she says simply, and that's what I do. It's not the whole truth, but it's enough. Minho stares at her for a long moment. She can see him calculating, assessing, trying to find the angle, the trap, the hidden agenda. In his world, everyone wants something. Trust is a luxury he can't afford. But Marco's cries are relentless, and even a Mafia boss has limits. One wrong move, Minho starts, his voice low and threatening. I understand, Janiyah interrupts gently. She doesn't need to hear the rest of that sentence. Slowly, reluctantly, Minho shifts Marco in his arms. His movements are stiff, unwilling, like every cell in his body is screaming at him not to trust this stranger. But he does it anyway. And then Janiyah is taking the baby. Marco is warm and solid in her arms, his small body trembling with the force of his cries. For a moment, Janiyah can't breathe. It's been 3 months since she held a baby. 3 months since Emma died in her sleep. 3 months of empty arms and aching chest and grief so deep it feels like drowning. But Marco needs her. Right now, in this moment, she can help. She cradles him against her chest, instinctively finding the position, the angle, the gentle sway that soothes. Shh, sweet boy. I know. I know you're hungry. And that's when she sees it. Minho's face, usually so controlled, so carefully blank, cracks, just for a second, just enough. His eyes glisten. His throat works on a swallow. His hands, now empty of his son, curl into fists on his thighs like he doesn't know what to do with them. This isn't just a man struggling with a crying baby. This is a father drowning in grief he can't express, a widower trying to raise a son alone. A powerful man brought to his knees by the most powerless thing in the world, love. Janiyah recognizes that look. She sees it in her mirror every morning. His mother? She asks softly. Minho doesn't answer. Doesn't need to. The silence says everything. I'm sorry, Janiyah whispers. And she is, because she knows exactly what he's lost. She knows the impossible weight of caring for a baby while drowning in grief. She knows how it feels when everyone expects you to be strong, to have it together, when all you want to do is fall apart. Marco's cries start to soften as Janiyah rocks him, as her warmth and steady heartbeat begin to calm him. But he's still hungry, still desperate. And Janiyah knows exactly what she needs to do. The question is whether she's brave enough to offer it, whether he's desperate enough to accept. And what happens when two broken people collide in a moment neither of them expected. I can help him, Janiyah says quietly, but I need privacy. Minho's eyes narrow. What do you mean? She meets his gaze steadily, even as her hands tremble against Marco's small back. I mean, I can feed him, properly, but not here, not with everyone watching. Understanding dawns slowly in Minho's eyes, followed immediately by suspicion. You're not... I lost my daughter 3 months ago, Janiyah interrupts, her voice barely above a whisper. My body hasn't figured that out yet. The words hang between them, heavy with grief and impossible coincidence. Minho stares at her, and for the first time since she approached, she sees something other than cold calculation in his face. She sees recognition. She sees someone who understands loss. He stands abruptly, gestures to his bodyguard. Clear the back section, now. Within minutes, the rear cabin is empty. Just Janiyah, Minho, and a desperately hungry baby. The bodyguard stands outside, ensuring privacy, ensuring no one interrupts what's about to happen. Janiyah sits down, her hands still shaking. This is insane. She's about to nurse a stranger's baby on a train. She's about to give what should have been Emma's to a child she doesn't know. But Marco's cries are weakening, becoming more desperate, more frantic. He needs this, and her body is ready to give it. She positions him carefully, adjusting her shirt with trembling fingers. Marco latches instinctively, and suddenly the train car is quiet except for the sound of a baby finally eating. Janiyah closes her eyes. Tears slip down her cheeks before she can stop them. It's been 3 months since she's felt this, the pull, the relief, the primal satisfaction of feeding a baby. 3 months of pumping and dumping, of her body producing milk for a ghost. But now, in this moment, it means something. It saves someone. She opens her eyes and finds Minho staring at her, not at Marco, at her. There's something raw in his expression, something vulnerable that probably hasn't seen daylight in years. He's watching a stranger feed his son, and she can see the war playing out across his face, gratitude and suspicion, relief and terror, control slipping through his fingers like sand. "Your wife," Janiyah says softly. "How did she—" "Complications during birth." His voice is rough, barely controlled. "She held him once, told me his name, then she was gone." Janiyah's heart clenches. She knows that particular brand of grief, the kind where you don't get to say goodbye, where one moment everything is fine and the next, your entire world has collapsed. "So you've been doing this alone," she says. "It's not a question. I don't need pity. I'm not offering any. I'm just saying I understand." And she does. She understands the impossible weight of caring for a baby while drowning in grief. She understands the bone-deep exhaustion, the constant fear that you're doing everything wrong, the desperate loneliness of mourning someone while keeping another human alive. Marco's breathing evens out as he feeds, his tiny hand curling against Janiyah's chest. The tension drains from his small body, replaced by contentment, by peace. Minho watches, transfixed. This woman, this stranger, is saving his son in a way he never could. She's giving Marco what he's been desperately needing, what Minho has been unable to provide. For a man who built an empire on control, on power, on never needing anyone, this moment is devastating. He's never felt this vulnerable before. Never been this exposed. His son's life, his most precious thing, is in the hands of a woman he doesn't know, doesn't trust, has no power over. And yet, she's not asking for anything, not demanding payment, not angling for leverage. She's just helping, because that's what she does, because she understands loss, because her grief found purpose. "Why?" Minho's voice cracks slightly. "Why would you do this for us?" Janiyah looks at him, tears still wet on her cheeks. "Because someone should have been there to help me when Emma died. Someone should have told me it wasn't my fault. Someone should have held me while I fell apart." She glances down at Marco, who's beginning to drift off, milk-drunk and finally satisfied. "I can't save my daughter," she continues quietly. "But maybe I can save your son, and maybe that means something." The silence stretches between them, heavy with understanding. Two broken people, brought together by impossible circumstances, connected by grief and babies and the strange alchemy of human compassion. Marco finishes feeding and falls asleep in Janiyah's arms, his breathing soft and even, his face peaceful for the first time since they boarded this train. And Minho's expression shifts. The vulnerability is still there, but something else creeps in alongside it. Something possessive, something calculating, something that looks at this woman who saved his son and thinks, "Mine." Because in Minho's world, debts must be repaid, kindness must be answered, and the woman who saved his son's life isn't walking away from this. Not now, not ever. She just doesn't know it yet. The train rushes through the darkness. Marco breathes peacefully in Janiyah's arms. And Minho Park makes a decision that will change both their lives forever. The train begins to slow as Chicago's lights grow closer. Marco sleeps peacefully in Janiyah's arms, his tiny chest rising and falling with the rhythm of deep, satisfied sleep. Janiyah gently passes him back to Minho, their hands brushing in the transfer. She expects a thank you, maybe an awkward goodbye. Then she'll return to her seat and they'll go their separate ways, this strange encounter becoming just another story she'll never tell anyone. But Minho doesn't move. "We need to talk," he says quietly. There's something in his tone that makes her nervous. Something final. Something that sounds less like a request and more like a command. "I should get back to my seat," Janiyah says, standing. "I'm glad I could help, but—" "Sit down." Not angry. Not threatening. Just absolute. Janiyah sits. Minho cradles Marco with one arm, his other hand resting on the armrest between them. When he speaks, his voice is measured, careful. In my world, there are traditions. Old ones, sacred ones. He pauses, watching her face. Do you know what you just did? I fed your baby, Janiyah says slowly. That's all. No. Minho's eyes lock onto hers. In Korean culture, in my family's tradition, a wet nurse, a woman who feeds another's child, she becomes part of that family, bound to them, protected by them. He leans forward slightly. You didn't just help my son. You claimed him. And in doing so, you've bound yourself to us. The words take a moment to register. When they do, Janiyah's blood runs cold. That's not, I didn't know, I was just trying to help. I know. There's something almost gentle in his voice now. But intention doesn't change tradition. Some bonds are more binding than blood. Janiyah stands again, backing away. I don't want to be part of anything. I just wanted to help a hungry baby. That's it. I'm going home, and we'll never see each other again. You don't understand. Minho stands too, still holding Marco. My name is Minho Park. My family controls significant interests in Chicago and Seoul. We operate in a world where loyalty is everything and debts are always paid. The pieces click into place. The expensive suit, the bodyguard, the calculated way he moves and speaks, the casual authority. Janiyah can't finish the sentence. Yes, simple, direct. No apology. Janiyah's heart pounds. This was supposed to be a simple act of kindness, one moment of her grief finding purpose. But now this man, this dangerous man, is talking about traditions and bonds and family. I don't want any part of this, she says firmly. Thank you for letting me help, but I'm leaving now. You can leave the train, Minho says calmly. But you can't leave what you started. You saved my son's life tonight. In my world, that creates a debt I can never repay. More than that, his voice softens slightly. You gave him what I couldn't, what his mother should have given him. Something flickers across his face then. Not the cold Mafia boss, not the calculating businessman. Something raw and broken and desperately grateful. I didn't expect this, he continues quietly. I didn't expect to feel. He stops, jaw clenching. I use people. I manipulate them. I take what I need and discard the rest. That's how I survive. But you. He looks at Marco, sleeping peacefully. You didn't want anything. You just helped. So let me go, Janiyah whispers. I can't. The words are heavy with resignation. Because now that I know what you did, now that I've seen what you're willing to give, I can't let you walk back into the world unprotected. You're vulnerable, alone, grieving. He steps closer, and Janiyah sees both the predator and the father warring in his eyes. You're under my protection now, whether you like it or not. The train lurches as it pulls into Union Station. Janiyah backs away, her mind racing. This can't be happening. She just wanted to help. She just wanted her pain to mean something. I don't need your protection, she says, trying to sound brave. You don't get a choice. Not cruel, just factual. You saved my son. That makes you family. And I protect my family. There's something possessive in the way he says it, something that should terrify her. And it does, but there's something else too, something she can't quite name. Because beneath the danger, beneath the cold calculation, she sees a man drowning in the same grief she knows too well. What does that mean? Janiyah asks. Protection? It means you're not alone anymore. Minho's eyes hold hers, for better or worse. The train doors open. Passengers begin to gather their belongings. Minho's bodyguard appears, ready to escort them off. Janiyah stands frozen. She could run. She could disappear into the Chicago night and hope he doesn't follow. But something keeps her rooted in place. Curiosity, fear, or maybe just the recognition that for the first time in 3 months, someone sees her grief and isn't asking her to hide it. What happens now? She whispers. Minho's expression is unreadable as he shifts Marco in his arms. Now, he says quietly, everything changes.